This is Black Writers Read. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me today for episode 19 of season 6 of Black Writers Read. My name is Nicole Young Martin, and I'm the founder, producer, and host of this series. I just met with, because I do this pre-show, and chatting with today's author and asking like some specific questions and checking in, and also to like just giving him praise and a lot of flowers because I love this book so much. This conversation is going to be awesome, and I hope that you are all ready for the ride. So I love that we're closing out Black History Month with today's author, someone who took on a personal journey, one that intersects perfectly with his profession, to write a book that will leave a permanent mark on the culture, and more importantly, how it talks about love. So let's get started. Black Writers Read showcases, celebrates, and honors the words, work, and traditions of Black writers from across the country, across genres, across experiences, and across the African diaspora. Black Writers Read is a behind-the-scenes conversation into the craft and what it means to create as a Black author in today's society. Since starting the series on Juneteenth in 2020, we've hosted almost 100 writers representing over 15 genres from 6 countries and 27 states. Our platform includes the live stream interviews, audio podcasts, book clubs, and curriculum integration assistance. Find us online at blackwritersread.com. Today, we welcome Vince Hudson. Vince Hudson is a marketing executive, author, and proud HBCU graduate who serves on the Board of Trustees at his alma mater, which, by the way, I totally forgot to mention to him. I also work in higher education, so I know like how cool it is to have that position at your alma mater. Dillard University. Based in Shreveport, Louisiana, Vince was blessed to grow up witnessing Black love modeled daily by his parents, a marriage grounded in faith, discipline, and devotion. That living example shaped both his worldview and his work. With more than 30 years of global brand leadership experience, Vince has held senior roles across some of the world's most recognizable companies. He served as Chief Brand and Marketing Officer at BET, which is really cool, Senior Vice President of Marketing at American Express, and a global leadership role at Meta, driving brand growth, audience strategy, and cultural impact. His career has centered on building powerful brands that resonate across communities. Now, Vince applies that same strategic discipline to relationships in his book, Date Like a Brand. As a father of 3 daughters, which he dedicates the book to them, he wrote the book as a love letter and a playbook dedicated to helping them and others navigate modern dating with clarity, standards, and self-worth. Rooted in Shreveport, refined through HBCU excellence, which I love, guided by generational Black love, Vince's mission is to help us build relationships as intentionally as we build our legacies. Today, we will be talking about Date Like a Brand, which was released in September of 2025. This is his first book. I hope that this is not his last, as we talked about. 100 years ago, our great-great-grandparents simply married the girl or boy next door. Compatibility and true love didn't always play into the equation. Today's expanded dating world should make finding the ideal partner easier than ever. Somehow, though, the task of finding the right mate has become more difficult instead. Modern dating is a marketplace, one where attraction, perception, and positioning matter just as much as compatibility. Yet, most people approach dating with no real strategy, leading to confusion, mismatches, and wasted time. I can speak from personal experience. But how might things change if you could apply the proven principles of brand management to your love life? The world's most successful brands don't rely on chance. They analyze, position, and optimize to achieve their goals. Vince has spent the past 3 decades honing his understanding of what makes relationships thrive, earning him the title of Chief Marketing Officer of Love. I love that. His own journey from dating to marriage and fatherhood has given him proven experience, life lessons he has shared with many friends who've proven the value and success of his framework. Vince truly enjoys using his unique blend of marketing mastery and relational wisdom to transform the often chaotic pursuit of love into a strategic, empowering path to lasting connection. Learn more about Date Like a Brand by visiting its website at www.datelikeabrand.com. For those who are new to Black Writers Read, here's what we gonna do. Vince will share an excerpt from his work, and then we'll chat. You can insert a question, a comment, a kudos, a congratulations in the comment section where you're joining us from today. I'll monitor it, and I will insert a question or a comment at an appropriate time, or I'll hold it towards the end of our conversation. I also wanted to know before bringing Vince on, like, how savvy this book is. Because of his background in marketing, it relies heavily on understanding the psychology of the consumer, which this is an extremely different. You may be hearing my cat meowing in the background. Sorry. The extreme savviness of really understanding marketing and the consumer's needs and wants. So I'm really excited to dive into the conversation with this book. And again, I hope you are all here to enjoy the ride. I'd now like to welcome Mr. Vince Hudson to the virtual stage. Good afternoon.
Nicole, thank you for that very flattering introduction. And thanks for being a passionate reader of the book. I'm just now, this book hasn't been too long launched, and it's good to hear people that have now actually completed it and getting feedback. As a marketer, I love feedback. So thank you.
Yes, I just, not to start the interview now, but in terms of just giving you your flowers and your praise, like I said off camera before we came on, like, just, I love, and you're just brilliant. Like, you made me think about this because two of the books that are your predecessors, Think Like a Man, Act Like a Woman, and He's Just Not That Into You, are written from the perspective of comedians. And so what they want their audience to do and get from the book is very, very different. Whereas you are a marketer. Marketing is a form of communication. It's a two-way relationship. And so that really explains why you took, sorry, dogs.
Oh, you have a cat and a dog. I have a poodle, so you might hear my dog bark too.
These are the joys of independent producing. Like, just this is just so brilliant. So,
and you were talking the comedians and Steve and Greg Barrett was the guy who wrote He's Just Not That Into You.
Yeah. And I read both of those books, and they're very interesting takes. But again, it's like understanding who your end reader is and the end user. And this is definitely, which there's exercises in here and things like this. This is a book that literally can be used and applied as opposed to just reading for pleasure. So I absolutely love this book so much.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because, and I loved, I've had a chance to meet Steve Harvey before, and I've loved reading his book. Greg Barrett actually started me on this journey because his book came out first, and I was on the Oprah show responding to his book. One of my a producer friend had me out on that show. So that really, I left that show when people were saying, wow, I've just learned that no one's into me. And it just hit me that is not the end goal, is it? To know that no one into, that might be step one, but the objective is to find out how to get people into you and get the right people into you that you're also into. And so it hit me that marketing is about solving problems. To me, marketing is not about entertaining, and it's not about comedy. It may have entertainment and comedy in it, but marketing at its root is about solving problems through strategy and execution. And so when I wrote this book, I had to have that mindset of what problem am I trying to solve? And then let's come up with a strategy and a framework and even technology that can help me to solve that problem in a way that will be a sustaining solution.
And with that said, as my co-hosts are going off in the background, my two furry cohorts, I will turn it over to you to read. Happy reading, and I'll be back to chat.
Okay, so every chapter in the book actually starts with a quote. Sometimes the quote is from a song. I don't profess to be a great singer, but this first verse that opens up the chapter 2, which is understanding the paradigm shift. This is around the paradigm shift that has taken place between my mother's generation, where no one really spent time in their 20s doing anything except figuring out how to find a lifelong partner. Your 20s, the earlier in your 20s, the better, sometimes at 18, right? And then so you didn't have this single part of your 20s to deal with. And so that's the biggest change to me in the paradigm, is that we now have this freedom of time because the pressure on getting married is not as high. The ability for a woman to be independent. I think it wasn't until the 60s when a woman could apply for her own credit card. So this is a very recent paradigm, and we're trying to deal with that right now. I was kind of in the middle, being a Gen Xer, but Gen Y and Z are in the thick of it. And speaking of Gen Y, this is Sabrina Carpenter as I open chapter 2. It's called Understanding the Paradigm Shift. And it goes, oh, it's slim pickings. If I can have the one I love, I guess it's you that I'll be kissing just to get my fixins. Since the good ones are deceased or taken, I'll just keep on moaning and bitching. And that's from the song Slim Pickings. And Sabrina is basically talking about how all the things that she sees that she wants, which is everything you see on Instagram and social media, the ideal is out there everywhere. But the reality is that the ability to find the right partner is harder than ever because we have so many choices out there, and we have choice overload. And so that's what this book is about. So I'll start reading a little bit from this section. The dating landscape has changed drastically over the last 100 years. Prior to the 19th century, arranged marriages were most common. The idea of romantic love is actually a modern day luxury. Tribal customs and royal alliances meant marriage was based on strategy rather than compatibility. Even through the 1940s and 50s, most American marriages were based on proximity, duty, or survival instead of emotional freedom. It wasn't until the last half of the 20th century that things began to change. The women's liberation movement and the sexual revolution pushed cultural norms, and individuals began to have more freedom to choose. Options were only limited by social circles and cities. You couldn't date who you didn't know. The technological age increased the dating pool exponentially. Social media, dating apps, and more freedom to travel globally opened the door to almost endless possibilities. The only thing holding people back was cultural and religious constraints. People allowed family pressures and stereotypes to narrow their options. But in the last decade or two, we moved into a brand new era of dating autonomy. We have full freedom and access. With a wide open, swipe driven dating scene, the paradox has flipped. Instead of the immensely limited field our ancestors experienced, we now face an overabundance of options. The shelves are fuller than ever before. And then I go on to talk about how you really need a strategy now. And that same thing has happened in marketing. Marketing shelves used to have a couple of products in different categories, but if you walk in CVS, Walmart, Target now, or shop on Amazon, there's so many products for every little niche that you can think of in a category. That's how the dating scene is. So marketing needs to be more strategic, and you need more tools to execute efficiently. And that's the parallel I'm trying to make with love in the book. I'll skip now to a section of the book called Measuring the Relationship. Because finding the person is one thing you have to get right in a relationship, finding the right person. But the second thing that you have to get right, which is why finding someone is so hard and the divorce rate is so high, is that you have to build the right relationship. And we often think that once we find the person, the work is done, but the work is just beginning. The chapter 11, Measuring the Strength of the Relationship. The quote that starts this chapter: we have to recognize that there cannot be relationships unless there is commitment, unless there is loyalty, unless there is love, patience, and persistence. Cornel West. In the world of marketing, we don't guess, we measure. The best marketers don't just launch campaigns, they track how people respond. We use surveys, analytics, and consumer data to monitor the quality of the relationship between a brand and its audience. One of the most widely used tools is the Net Promoter Score, or NPS. To determine our NPS, we ask a simple but powerful question. How likely are you to recommend this brand to a friend? The answer tells you everything about loyalty, satisfaction, and future potential. If you're not measuring your relationship with your customers, you're managing in the dark. Measure the relationship. After we've done the hard work to build your brand and strengthen your dating value proposition, why would you settle for running on chance? When you start to consider committing to another person, another brand, you've moved beyond selling to partnership. And just like in business, that partnership needs to be monitored, managed, and measured. The tool PDF is the tool that we use to measure our Net Promoter Score. Based on Sternberg's triangular theory of love, this framework measures the passion, P, decision, D, and friendship in a relationship. Sternberg proposed that the healthiest, most enduring romantic relationships have these three things in common. And then I go on to define each one and talk about how you need to be sufficient in each area to have a sustaining, thriving relationship. The passion, decision, and friendship don't have to be on peak performance all the time. All three just need to be sufficient. And when they become insufficient, you know what area to go and work on. So this was Sternberg's model of love, but I changed the language and kind of simplified it a bit like a PDF. PDF file is a common file for everyone, and I wanted to make this framework a common, easily understood framework for everyone. So that's the second part I'll read. And I won't get into the last chapter, but I will tell you the beginning of the last chapter because it's called the bonus chapter, How It All Began, the Vinifer Story. And the quote that starts that chapter goes, "Every love story is beautiful, but ours is my favorite." Anonymous. And the love story that I was talking about was the love story between Vince and Jennifer, my girlfriend, now wife. And it's called the Vinifer Story, How It All Began. And it's the combination. I got it obviously from, was it Brad and Jennifer Vinifer? And so that's our story, which is the last chapter of the book that really brings it all home because it's using the principles in the book. And we use those principles both in building our own brands and in coming together to build the right relationship. And we're going to have our 16th anniversary coming up on March 13th. So those are a couple of excerpts from Date Like a Brand.
Yes, congratulations on this amazing book and congratulations on your upcoming anniversary. I'm so excited for this conversation. So excited. So I just want to start.
It's a big time.
It's a big time. So for folks, I'm going to insert my personal story here for a second. So I got married in my early 40s. I'm now in my mid to late 40s. And I was always told, because of the type of person I am, I'm too educated, I'm a Black woman and all these things. And I look for, I don't like traditional gender roles. I look for a little bit more the appropriate amount of equity. I like being a little independent. I don't want us to be we have the same friend circles, we have the same hobbies and all these things. For the longest time, I was told that I was not worthy, literally quoting exes, I was not worthy of being married because of just how rebel I was and who the person that I was. And I am okay, I'm not willing to change, but at the same time, I want to understand, if a relationship is two-way, what do I need to do to find my match? And I literally, in meeting my now husband, and we met online, I changed a lot of things, and he is very different than a lot of the men that I've dated in my past. One of them is our family values are really strongly aligned. We both have similar college education. He's actually working on his doctorate now. I recently finished mine. and we're both educators. And so it was a unique find. Now, don't get me wrong, everybody. Once you get married, the fairy tale changes a little bit. Like
Yeah.
it's marriage
The
is
work
hard.
just begins. The work just begins when you
Yeah.
get married.
And it's
So
worth it too.
it's so much that I want to jump into, just because one
Yeah.
of the things I enjoy doing most, and I've been doing over the last 30 years, is talking to people and giving what I call relationship strategy or relationship consulting, because that's my lane as a marketer and a brand management expert. And when you have consumer feedback, someone tells you, like someone had the nerve to tell you you're not worthy of them or you're not worthy of getting married, what they meant was, I can't believe you're not letting me control you.
Mm.
Because they wanted you to fit into the box that they had for you in marriage, which was 100% about them and had nothing to do with you. So one of the things I talk about in the book is don't take anything personally, because when people say things, it's really coming from where they stand
Yeah.
versus in the mirror they're looking at versus you. So that's one piece I'll just kind of comment on.
Yeah.
And but I love the fact that you found and are still building love. And you said that it came in a different package, and then you used to dating, right?
Yes.
You tried something different. I said insanity, right, is trying the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So I hope everyone listening out there, if you're trying the same thing, the same type person over and over again, and it's not working out, you may want to change your strategy, right? Just like any smart brand would. If you're trying to get consumers in one group and no one is coming to that shelf buying the product, probably need to try a different consumer group, because you're not going to be. Now you can improve your brand a bit on the package and optimize, but you're not going to become a whole new product, right? So you got to find those consumers who are after what you're offering. So those are my quick little pieces of it. I jump back into relationship,
Yes.
go back to author.
Yeah. I love it. And I love that you so naturally took that segue. And thank you for that feedback, because that's something else too. And this book can even be applied to jobs. Like that has been too for me in terms of looking for like employment. It's just like I understand that there are, like organizational integrity and all these things, and that I am working for the organization, but I'm also like, okay, where can we meet halfway where I get my needs met as an employee of your organization? And it has taken a while for me to find the right fit in terms of career and in terms of employment. And I feel like this book can be used for jobs as well.
Yeah, it's a two-way street. So a lot of people, I know so many people that are in marketing, and so my LinkedIn friends are telling me that, and mentees and mentors are they're getting a lot out of the book when it comes to marketing, because it is a case study in marketing, but the product that I'm marketing is love. And I'm trying to make people aware of love, try love more, get people to be more loyal to love, rebrand love. So understand what love is. So it's basically marketing, the same thing I do when I go to brands. Find the problem. The problem is loneliness and people not valuing relationships, and bring in a strategy that helps, which is thinking of yourself as a brand, finding a partner brand to that kind of complements you, and then launching a relationship together. So that strategy will help overcome the problem. So it's basically a marketing book disguised as a dating book.
Yes. So I'm actually going to jump into my second question, because the first question that I have for you, we kind of covered that already in terms of the origin story of the book. So I teach an arts marketing class, and I've been teaching it now for 3 semesters, and almost all of my students, when it comes to, so just a little bit of backstory. So what I love about this particular class and this arts management program, we do case studies with actual nonprofit arts organizations so that students can get that hands-on real world experience. And we have them take on an organization, and they do a marketing campaign for that organization. And I love how every single time we get to the conversation about branding, they're like, "Oh, a brand, that's like that's like, a color scheme, and that's a logo." And I'm like, "No, it's only a part of it." And so I would love for you to talk about what is a brand. And then I love in the book, you talk about selling and marketing. Can you talk about the difference between selling and marketing, especially when it comes to dating?
I love talking relationships and I love talking marketing. So those are right up my alley. So your students, when people respond like a brand is a color or a brand is a packaging, it's just that's what they see. But what they would really understand is that a brand is a promise. It's a promise that leads to an assumption. I like to say, which is it's a something that you believe when you look at a jacket on the shelf, a coat, winter coat, and you look at another winter coat, and the only difference is that one has a North Face sign on it. That's the only difference. You're going to believe and assume that the one that has a North Face sign is going to perform better. So that positioning of North Face over the years has led to an assumption in your brain, right? Based on a promise that that brand has not only made, but it's lived up to over time. And so all of those things to come together to represent what a brand is. And now the new generation is they're seeing everyone become a brand because everyone has their brand on IG and TikTok. But it's a promise. Their brand it comes with a promise of something. Sometimes that thing is a promise that I might not care for, but it's still a promise. And you can make some assumptions about them based on their profile as well. So a brand is simply that. It's a promise that is played out over time. And the other question that you ask is interesting because I have this chapter in the book that I dedicated to. This is not selling because I got in a lot of trouble when I talk, and even in my companies when I'm talking about love and marketing, it gets kind of confusing because people say, well, are you saying that people are products and they should be sold and then people should buy people? And like, no, of course not. That's selling. So I had to make a distinction between selling and marketing. In selling, you're trying to convince someone of something and you're going to close the deal, right? And so and you can even chase to get that sale, right? But in marketing, you're building something that is going to create desire, that people are going to be attracted. The right person is going to be attracted to that which you're building. And so that is marketing. And marketing is enduring. It lasts long after that transaction and that sales-based transaction. And it's more strategic. And so that's where I'm pushing people to build things that are sustainable and repeatable. And that's what marketing is.
And thank you, Vince, for bringing up the word transaction, because one of the things that I've seen, especially, and you bring this up in the book about situationships, it's what can I do to get what I need temporarily? And so you do things very transactionally. It's not, oh, how can I be with this person? But it's what do I need to do to get the thing that I need? And so a lot of times with situationships, from what I've seen when I was dating and seeing with my friends now, I'll use myself as the example. So one of the things that would happen is men would say whatever they needed to do to get me to go out with them, or to jump to like third base really quickly. They'll be like, I want to
our home plate,
right? I want to marry you and all these things and da da da. And then we go to that, and then all of a sudden they just disappear, and then you'd reach out to them and they're like, oh, I got what I needed. And I'm like, why did you lie? I'm like, I would rather for you to be upfront with me about what you're really looking for. And I live near train tracks, and I live in Connecticut, so there's a train coming every 5 minutes. But I would rather for you to be truthful and upfront with me about what you truly want, so that I don't invest my time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was tuning in when you started talking about how do you get what you need. I was like, where is she going with this? So I'm glad you gave me that example. And so I think that you're right. So there's this book I read that like a life-changing book, and it's a bestseller. It's kind of a spiritual book. It's called The Purpose-Driven Life. And The Purpose-Driven Life, I think it's chapter 1. The first out of the gate, the first sentence goes, it's not about you. And so in most of our relationships, in most of our dating people, we're treating it's about us. And the analogy that the dating market has right now is called the dating game. And if you're in a game, you're playing to win. It's a dating game. It's you versus other people. There's one winner, there's one loser. One person has monopoly, and one person is stepping on the right, rolling on the right chips, and they have to pay you because it's your property, right? These are all games. And I want to flip the conversation between to change from dating being a game to dating being a market. See, if dating is a market, then it's full of people that are out there trying to build their best versions of themselves, trying to find a partner who's compatible and complementary. And then they can launch a relationship to get out of that dating market and get into the marriage market, and they can have children, and then children can complete the cycle. So I'm trying to change the whole paradigm. Where you were in was a game, and the game is played. This situationship word has just come up, but I use the same triangle that I was reading about in the book. Relationships are about three things, right? In order to have a sufficient relationship, you have to have sufficiency in passion, what you feel is that heat part. Friendship or decision, which is I've decided to be with you. You are a good person. You would make a good husband or wife. Our values line up. And you said some of that when you were talking about your experiences as well. And then friendship. I enjoy spending time with you. We have common interests. I can see myself spending time with you and energy with you beyond just when the kids are around, and I can see life with you as a friend. So those are the three things. But whenever you have one of those things, you have somebody getting their needs met in one of those areas, right? So if you have someone in your example, they wanted passion. They wanted a person that they wanted to be passionate with. And that was the only thing they wanted to solve for. It was not friendship. They did not decide that they would be a person to marry. It was just passion. And what you're saying is that you don't know that up front, right? Because a wolf in sheep's clothing, I'm bringing you the whole triangle, but really they were solving for one piece of the triangle. Now, how do you get around that? It's only through time, because most people who are solving for just one piece of the triangle are not going to invest the time that it takes to complete the whole triangle. They're going to be out after one coffee at Starbucks. If they don't get what they want on the second day, they're out of there, right? So you have to build in some steps, and marketing has a rule of three. Give everything three interactions before you give something that you can't take back, right? Or before you give something to someone that they might want and never come back again, right? So you walk into Costco, they'll give you a piece of the, new pizza, frozen pizza that they have. They'll give you a little tiny slice. And if you come back, they might give you another one. But they're never going to give you a whole pizza, let you walk out of the store, and then just wonder, are you going to come back in or not? And that's what a lot of people are doing in this dating game. They're giving away the whole pizza, and the person never returns to Costco to buy.
I love it. You say a whole pizza, and I'm imagining the party size pizza.
The party size too. You're giving it, and the trimmings. You're giving away the pizza, the trimmings, and everything. Why would the person like? Why is he coming back for more? Because he already had the pizza and the trimmings.
Yes.
Now what is he after? A new pizza or shrimp dumplings.
Shrimp dumplings.
So you have to be strategic with your offering and your brand.
Mm-hmm. I want to know. So for folks who are new, I send questions ahead of time. I'm gonna skip a couple of questions and then come back. So I'm assuming, because of something that I saw in a previous interview of yours, I'm assuming you and I are probably around the same age, or at least the same generation. And
I present younger. I'm probably older.
Okay.
So I'm 54.
Okay, I'm 44. And my parents are similar, I'm assuming, to your parents. And actually yesterday was my dad's birthday. Both my parents have since passed on. They passed pretty young.
Happy heavenly birthday, Pops. My father's passed too.
Oh, wow. And it's so, which before I forget, because I'm finding some amazing synergy in this conversation, and people that I tend to connect with like this, we have a deceased parent and something else in common. I saw, which thank you so much to your wife for sharing a lot of the posts leading up to today. And I saw on her Instagram page a birthday post. Are you a Libra?
I'm a Libra. My wife's a Libra too.
I'm a Libra too.
Oh, look at that. See, there we go. And you were just going out on a limb, and it's 12 different signs, and you nailed it. So we're a Libra fam. So we got we're called a Librian pair in the world of astrology, I guess. And so we're a Libran pair. So she's the 11th, I'm the 21st, so that we both have that to bond on. And we both have a mole on our left upper lip. So
wow.
She calls it a beauty mark. I call it a mole, but it's no difference.
Yeah, my birthday's on the 14th. So
all right, right in the middle, right?
Right in the middle. So we have a lot in common. So one of the things in reading the book, so my parents, and I've been in the process of writing this essay about how hard it has been to have the expectations and model of my parents' love. Like my parents, they were married almost 40 years, but my mom passed away first and my dad passed 2 years after. And my mom, both of them had, some hard battles health-wise. And I remember what my dad swooped in and stepped up in a certain way. And same with him when he got chronically sick. And no matter what, they stuck to the in sickness and in health. And the love and devotion was so there. And they were like, no matter if it gets hard, we are doing this. And then my father, this is where the expectation that I'm writing about. So my father did everything possible to make sure that my mom was cherished and that she was able to have the life that she wanted. He worked really hard at all of these things, and just how he showed my mom how much he loved her. There's something about, because my parents were born in 1957. It's something about that generation and the earlier generations where I also want to mention too, my apologies if I'm all over the place. They both grew up together. My mom was best friends.
Mine too.
Yeah. My mom was best friends with his younger sister. And they went to high school together and all these things. So they got a chance to spend their formative years together, and they got married at 19. So they grew up together. And so they got to build a life together in a very, very unique way, which is something very different from our generation and from younger generations, where one of the things I say to some of my really close friends, because I'm originally from Detroit, is that I'm lucky to have grown up with my extended family surrounding me so much so. I spent, I remember Easter Sunday, I had my own church home, but Easter Sundays going with my grandmother and my cousins to church with them, and every Sunday getting together for dinner at my grandmother's homes, and my other grandma babysitting me, and and going up with the cousins. And now it's families are so disjointed because they have to move, and the world and society is shifting. And so that means how generations interact and pursue things are so different. So the question that I have is, which generation do you think would have the easiest time adapting your strategies? And which generation do you think would have the hardest time with the strategies and challenges, and why?
Yeah. Interesting question. You gave a lot of good nuggets in that prologue too. And what that points back to, and the first thing you do as a marketer when you are trying to identify the problem, is you do something called an assessment of the landscape. What does the landscape look like for dating now versus how it's looked in the past? And that was a part of that first excerpt that I read. And when you're talking about the generational kind of attachment or application of the book, you wouldn't need a book like this. And it would largely be irrelevant, especially the dating part of it, to the baby boomers. So my parents were 1937 and 1941-ish, right? So even earlier, 20 years earlier than your folks. But your folks were kind of the last of that generation, I'd say. And so for them, there was no other alternative. What are you going to do other than get married at 19 or 21? I asked my mom that question. I was like, why did, I asked my father, like, how, well, you got married, 25. And he went to the army and got back, and they were already dating. So it was really early, still in his 20s. And so he said, why did I get married so young? He said, how else was I going to have sex? So things were very simple back then because they had very simple answers. So, and women at that point, my mother, from talking to her, and is that women were so afraid of having babies because there wasn't the level of contraception that they have now. And so women wouldn't have sex because all of a sudden sex would lead to a child out of wedlock. And then you had kind of a scarlet letter, and you had to go around and raise a child with no father, and that wasn't tolerated in the community. So you had women and men that were needing to have a relationship to have passion. You have all this passion bubbling out. And of course, people would, look to, manifest that in different ways, but you couldn't really be in an intimate relationship openly unless you were married. And so that alone changes everything, because you fast forward to now, there is no expectation of, there's no, the contraception has changed everything. So technology has changed the contraception issue. So the pregnancy issue largely goes away. The treatment of diseases is, now very high. So technology's made that not as much of a thing. And then the man, and in my father's age too, you would find your mate before you peaked on the market. Let me explain what I mean by that. So when you would come out of the army, or you would come out of college, or you would come out of high school, you'd find a mate because you wanted someone to partner with. But then you were going to begin your career journey, and you had a partner as you did that. And so your career journey would start to maximize. You see where you ended up in the market. You see what kind of resources you were going to amass, right? And so that changes because now a person wants to reach their peak on the market, and let's say a man who's going to, have a lot of resources is going to be in more demand on the market. That's just how it goes. But that maximum resource is not going to happen until 40 or 45. So men are delaying making a choice until they reach their kind of premium market position, right? And so that has created a dynamic where women who are still biologically, in their mid-20s, when it comes to fertility, are having to either wait on kind of men to figure out where they're going to be. They're also building their careers, right? Because now women have the opportunity to build their own careers. Thank God for my 3 daughters. They can go out and become whatever their best version of their brand is, right? So that's delaying everything, right? But then the guys are still going to be a delayed, cognitive development versus the women. That's just how it is in their 20s. Guys mature later psychologically than women do. So all of these dynamics, no one had to think about in the previous generation. You just got married and you figured it out, right? Because there was no other option. You couldn't be the single guy. This Sex and the City show that I loved so much and watched while it was on, that would have been so out of place. Back then it was I Love Lucy, right? Everyone was married. Good time. All the shows, people were married. And so the Sex and the City generation, that we're just now dealing with something that no generation in human existence has ever had to deal with on any place on the planet, which is this being single in your 20s. And that's what necessitates a book and a strategy.
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning Sex and the City, which I want to mention this aside. And just like that, y'all, I was writing Charlotte's storyline, and it's because, I'm now, I was an undergrad in college when Sex and the City came out, but I didn't really start watching it until my 20s, and I was able to really align myself with their stories, even though they're white and were not a working class like me. And now I'm in my 40s and I have a family and all those things. And I really dug deep into Charlotte's storyline. So, and just like that, creators, can you do something with Charlotte's because I want to see that storyline continue. But yeah, but you're right. It's like just generationally, like it's so important. And I tell my students this and they get mad and they're like, and I teach 6 classes across 3 different colleges and I teach different things. Some I teach English,
Mhm.
some I teach theater, some I teach arts management. And in all the classes, I tell them you have to really understand society and these social political contexts. And they're about everything. And they're like, I don't like getting political. And I said, it's not about getting political. It's
Yeah.
about really understanding the world around you and how, because it informs so much. It
Yes.
informs how we read and understand text. It helps us to understand how we pursue things.
Hmm.
It helps us to understand like how we relate to one another. I'm like, I tell students, I'm like, this might be a theater class, but we're really going to dig into like we right now are reading the play The Rover by Afra Ben. And she was like, she's known as the first woman English writer to be like a paid writer. And she was out in like the 17th century. And I keep telling students we have like, because they're like, oh my God, her stuff is so lewd and blah, blah, blah. And I said, one, we got to read, one, it's satire. Two, we have to read this work because so many writers of today and contemporaries like Virginia Woolf and all those things, applaud her for opening the door for them to write. But then lastly, we're really understanding the context in which many people were living during that time. And I'm like, you have to understand the context in which the thing was written. Stop applying contemporary context to the thing. So thank you and I love how much you really dig into understanding like
Yeah.
generations
It
and
was,
the environment around us in the book.
and I think you brought up something really interesting when you talked about the social and political climate, because I talked about the technology that changed the reproductive rules and also the disease rules. But the other thing that changed so much is the spiritual side. So you mentioned your parents going to church, and you're going to church with your grandmother. So in the book, I talk about the 4 parts of a person's brand: are mind, body, soul, and resources. And I had to insert that part of soul because that's kind of what guides us, right? How selfless we can be, or how selfless we are. And so another thing that left in the previous generation is that not only did they need the covenant of marriage, or the protection of marriage, from having a baby and for kind of safe sex, they also had a relationship with a spiritual source that made them want to be married and said the right thing to do is to be married and partner with a person, to kind of enjoy life with. And so, and we met people in church, right? And so that also has decreased exponentially, as we have gone in these next 2 generations. So not only do we have kind of more options out there, because geographically we can go more places, they're all presented to us in a way that's overly positive because people are presenting them their best selves on Instagram. But we also don't have a kind of spiritual framework to help filter out people that are more equally yoked to us. That is less of a concern than it used to be. And the soul is probably the highest correlation to a sustained marriage, but we're still prioritizing looks and resources, not soul and mind. So these are all parts of the landscape that are impacting our ability to, 1, choose the right mate, and 2, build the right relationship.
Oh my gosh, I'm loving this conversation. So, I want to talk a little bit about writing the book, especially given that this was your first book and given that you came to this process not only with your professional experience in mind, but also your personal journey. So, can you talk about the process of writing the book, especially talking about because there's some amazing exercises and writing prompts and things like that that you give people to think about their own process.
Yeah, so I think the genesis of the book, and we talked a little bit about the fact, and we share a lot of this coming from a marriage. My parents were married over 60 years, and they dealt with health issues and helping each other out. So the genesis of the book really came from me seeing a rare, which is unfortunately a rare example in our community of a sustained marriage, where I got a chance to see a individual be both a man, be a father, be a husband. And that alone, because you see it, you automatically want to be that. But so many of us don't get a chance to see that. And then that, because we don't have that direct experience, we need to go out and get some indirect experience. We need to learn what is a husband, what is it to be a husband, what is it to be a father. If we didn't have that figure at home, we got to go learn it conceptually. And that's why I think more of us need to get into learning from other people and reading, different books out there. Having a spiritual source actually is your fallback plan if you didn't have the parent present, right? But we, as I said earlier, we don't have that spiritual backstop either. So we're out there in the world without the role model father figure, and we don't have a spiritual backdrop. That's another reason that their relationships are so hard these days. But back to the writing, the book part. So the genesis of the book really came from when I was on that Oprah show that you were talking about, and everyone was saying, hey, the book He's Just Not That Into Me was out. And people were leaving the show saying, oh, this is great. No one is into me. And now I've realized that. And I'm like, is that success? No, success is finding the people that you're into that are into you. And so I started to apply marketing principles that would actually solve the problem. And the problem was loneliness and people not being in relationships. So these principles were meant to solve problems. And that's why they have exercises, because you take yourself through understanding, developing a strategy, and then starting to execute. Those are kind of the parts of marketing that you pull together. So the book was called, in the 90s, I gave a seminar at an MBA conference on, it was called Relationship Strategy and Relationship Marketing. That was the working title of the book. And there were the same principles. But after I left and I gave the presentation with one of my friends and mentors, who's a psychologist, Dr. Brenda Wade, we gave the presentation and we walked off stage, and everyone said, oh, that was great. I love the frameworks. How long have you been married? And I said, I'm single, because this was 20 years ago. And they said, oh, and they just walked away. Like, you know nothing about relationships. So even though they understood the frameworks, they gave me no credit because I wasn't married. And so I had to put the book on the shelf, or the idea, for like 10, 15 years, ended up getting married, having kids. And I actually did learn a lot. So the book changed because my life experience changed. And then also the title Date Like a Brand kind of popped up because brands were more prominent at the time. And I was looking at Steve Harvey's Think Like a Man. And so Date Like a Brand was born. And so that's kind of how the book came about, and the frameworks that are in the book. But they're all meant to solve a problem and to be a constant resource. And soon I'm developing an app that's going to come out that you can go through the exercises on the app. And then with AI, you can have my thinking framework and thoughts into the app to coach people every day in their relationships.
Which, by the way, I want to mention, because also toward the back of the book, it gives other ways to, because it does mention the app, and it gives other ways to engage with the book. I want to shout out my higher ed colleagues. Please bring him to your campus and have students do common reads of this book, please.
Great.
And you can find him at datelikeabrand.com. Like, please, because which I can't think of the books right now, but there have been tons of books that I've read about like college students pursuing love and all those things. And I'm just like, this is a great approach. Like, talking about not necessarily pursuing love, but the problems that they have in pursuing love, but not necessarily the solution. And so I'm like, colleges and universities, please bring him as a speaker on your campus.
I'm a part of an organization that goes out and talks to students about marketing. And I get a chance to talk to the book as I'm talking to classes about marketing. And it's been surprisingly, I didn't know how relevant it would be to 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, but they love it because they are more focused than I thought they'd be on building their own brand, especially the build your own brand part, right? and the strategy and efficiency in dating. So I have hope for the new generation coming up, but they've been very interested in the book. So I'm definitely open to speaking at colleges on it.
Yes. So, associate producer Candace came up with this question, and it comes from what you contributed for your response to Why We Write. As a writer, and I love this question, as a writer with the intention to be clear and responsible for their words, what would you say is the greatest tool in your toolbox?
The greatest tool in my toolbox. I always default to this answer, and it may start to seem cliche, but it's not. Is that the greatest tool in my toolbox is what I call the greatest thing in the world. There's actually a book called The Greatest Thing in the World. I found it in my mother's house, the house I grew up in. And I said, what could this little red book, how can they have the audacity to say the greatest thing in the world? Like, what is this? What are they talking about? And I opened up the book, and on first page, it said, the greatest thing in this world is love. And it rocked me at that time, because I said, okay, that I guess that's right. And so I started digging through the book, and love is the greatest power that we have, but we don't know what it is. So everyone says, I love you, and I love you, bye-bye, I love you, hello. But we don't understand and process what love is. And when you understand love, you can unlock the power of it. Love is 4 things. So there's another book that my mom had called The Art of Loving by Eric Fromm. And he really codified what was the evidence of love, not just the statement of love, but what's the evidence of love. And you'll find that in the book, Date Like a Brand, as well. And the 4 things are in order, because you're going from bottom to top, is knowledge. If you don't know something, you don't love it. Next is care. If you know it, but you don't care for it, you don't love it. The next is respect. If you know it and you care for it, but you don't respect it, you try to treat it like you want to treat it, not how it wants to be treated. You don't respect it, so you don't love it. And the last one is responsibility. If you know it, care for it, respect it, but you're unwilling to be responsible for it, and you leave town and leave your plant unwatered for weeks on end in the sun by the window, you don't really love the plant, because you're not responsible for the plant. So these are the 4 elements of love. And so my greatest superpower is to try to understand love. And my purpose is written down, and the purpose goes to show love winning. That's to show the power of knowledge and caring and respecting and being responsible for those things that you say you love.
Prior to having our guests on Black Writers Read, we ask each of them why they write. Here's a little bit more of what you offered. I write because I care about outcomes. I've spent 30 years building brands at companies like BET, American Express, and Meta. In business, you don't define the strategy, the market defines it for you. I believe the same is true in love. If we don't define what we mean by commitment, partnership, and legacy, culture will define it for us. And culture right now is loud, fast, and often confused. Writing for me is legacy work. It's planting something that can outlive me and hopefully strengthen love for our community for generations to come. So the question that I have for you is, when someone picks up your book 30 or 40 years from now as an artifact of today's culture, what do you hope would have changed about the dating world?
I think the dating world would have changed from considering itself a dating game, and it would have moved to be a dating market, because dating is a means to an end. And that end is not winning or losing like in the dating game. It's finding partnership and then getting out of the dating market into the marriage market and creating that virtuous circle of life. So my book is here to change the way people see dating. There's a quote by Wayne Dyer that goes, when you change the way you see things, the things you see change. So if I change the way people see themselves, and not just a pawn in a game, but a brand to be built, then they're going to pour more energy into building their brand, because I've changed the way they see things. So the things they see that can build their brand are going to change. and they're going to change the way they see other people, not a person to be captured in the market as I found one, I'm going to scoop this guy up or scoop this girl up and capture them as a target. But you're going to find someone to partner with who wants to partner with you. And then you're going to not just get married and have a celebration, but you're going to launch a high quality relationship and partnership. So my hope is to change the way people see the game, and they see it as a market, and they see themselves as a brand, and the end destination and what drives it all is love.
You dedicate Date Like a Brand to your 3 daughters. When do you hope they'll read it, and what do you hope would be their biggest takeaway from the book?
So I have Oprah's on this side. Oh, here's the family over here. So my 3 daughters, and my wife there, Jennifer Holliday Hudson. I'll explain the name later. But they are starting to inquire about dating. My oldest is 15, and the middle one's 13, and the youngest is 11. So they're at that age where they're, having questions. And so the book is designed to really start where people are. And the first place it starts is building your brand. We have a prayer that we say that the girls have said their whole lives, and it goes, may this food nourish our mind, body, and soul. So in the book, the person's brand that I write around in the book, your brand is based on mind, body, and soul. I had to add in resources just because of the reality of today. The girls don't have to pray for resources at the breakfast table, but what they'll realize is that mind, body, and soul and resources, that makes up your brand. And your job is to build those 4 things. Connect with people about resources, connect with people and things around growing your mind, about growing your body in a healthy way, protecting your body, putting boundaries up, and then connecting your soul in the right way where you are connected with a higher source of strength and power to overcome all the other challenges that you have in mind and resources and body. So there's an interconnectivity in a person's brand that I hope my daughters learn, love, and realize so they can become the best versions of themselves. And only after that and through that process do they need to start thinking about finding a collaboration partner, a partner that's complementary, that they can start to partner in life with. And my job is to let them see partnership in my wife and myself. And so they'll see me partnering with Jennifer Holliday Hudson, both with passion, decision, and friendship. But they don't see a lot of the passion part. But that's, we come home and kiss each other on the cheek.
Which we were saying off air. I love that your wife has names associated with 2 very famous Jennifers.
Yes. So I met Jennifer Holliday and converted her through partnership to Jennifer Hudson. So we actually met Jennifer Hudson, the singer, actor, extraordinary TV show host, at an event. I think it was called the Black Ball. It was a charity event, and told her the story that Jennifer Holliday was her maiden name, and now she's Jennifer Hudson. And Jennifer said, "No, it's not right. I think we had to show her ID to prove it." And she was just blown away by the story. So we had a bonding moment over that moment with the other Jennifer Holliday.
And I just thought about that. Dream Girls, because Jennifer Holliday and Jennifer Hudson.
Yes, I mean it doesn't get any better than that, right? Jennifer Holliday Hudson, both singers and dream girls, and of course I use as a marketer, like Jennifer Holliday, Jennifer Hudson, dream girls, and you're my dream girl. So that was one of my lines to try to get my bride to partner with me.
That's cute. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. I love it. And by the way, I love that your family prays together, because one of the things that even though I have still a very spiritual center, but because I've moved around a lot, haven't really found a church home. I love when I hear people finding ways to bring their families together around spirituality and religion. So I thought that story about praying together was really cute.
And it's definitely hard. Soul is a hard piece of our brands to keep at the forefront. I have, lacrosse in the suburbs of New York is, life on a Saturday or life on a Sunday in the suburbs of New York is full of lacrosse practice and volleyball practice and all the other things that are there to do other than going to church. But we still have an opportunity for improvement in that area, but we're working on it.
And lastly, I'd like to close out with what is next for you and how can the Black Writers Read community support you on this journey?
Well, I think, I'm trying not just to write a book, but I'm trying to start a movement. So, but it does start with understanding the book. So going out to Amazon right now and picking up a copy for a friend, reading it as a group. I'd love for people to read it in groups of 5, 5 men together, 5 women together, or a group of 10 couples reading it together. Couples reading it together will kind of go through not finding a new mate, but how to maximize and understand their own relationships. So we're getting a lot of feedback that it's good for couples to go through these exercises too at any stage of a relationship. And then follow on Instagram, Date Like a Brand book, and then comment, join the movement. It's a growing community, and we're trying to change the way people are seeing relationships so they maximize themselves and their relationships.
So thank you, Vince, for writing this book. Thank you for just, now that I lost words, it's like, this was such an amazing conversation, and just, it gave me so much to think about too. Also, and I think, I can't remember if I said this on air or not, but like, this can be applied to jobs. This can be applied to even friendships. Like, people don't realize, and I learned this as I became an adult, like, friendships are as important as families. And so really being thoughtful and intentional about especially your close friends is extremely important. But Vince, I appreciate you so much in this work, and I really look forward to seeing this book continue in the hands of others, which, by the way, I love, folks. Like, he's not kidding about buying this book for others. There's a page where it says, because your brand is so deserving of great love, this book was given to you by. So you literally could sign your name and give this book to a friend.
Yes, please do that. It's nothing like word of mouth to give these inspirational frameworks to someone you care about.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Vince, also for being here this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me on. Let's continue to give love a rebrand. Thanks a lot. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. You too. So I'm going to wrap us up and take you off. So if you could stay on for a couple of minutes, next we'll touch base. So thank you all for joining me for this amazing episode 19 of season 6 of Black Writers Read. I will be back in a few days. I'll be back on International Women's Day with a very special guest, someone who I've been a fan of for a very long time, is someone who has done so much in terms of writing both nonfiction, fiction, and poetry. I will be introducing this guest on Instagram at Black Writers Read over the coming days. Support Black Writers Read by subscribing to my YouTube channel, where many of you are supporting and joining us from today. Also, you can find the audio podcast on Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Spotify, and Amazon. There, I do a replay of the interviews from the live stream. Also, I have bonus footage there as well. While you are there, please leave a review, as the algorithm, it helps people to find me. Also, too, while you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Again, algorithm, it helps others to find me. Also, many of the books, including Date Like a Brand, you can also purchase via the Black Writers Read Bookshop link, where proceeds benefit the author, independent booksellers, and Black Writers Read. Also, please review this book on Amazon. The reviews go such a long way, and it helps the book to stay in print. By supporting Black Writers Read in these various ways, you're helping to sustain the platform, which is independently produced and self-funded. Please visit blackwritersread.com to learn more about the podcast and also all of my work. So thank you all for joining us this afternoon. And more importantly, for ensuring that Black writers continue to matter. I'll see you next week.